From the Treasure Coast Lexus Studios, it's Hometown Saturday on WPSL. Treasure Coast Lexus, US 1, south of Midway Road. The opinions expressed on this program are those of the host and their guests, and are not those of WPSL, staff, management, or sponsors. WPSL does not endorse products that may be mentioned. Any reproduction or retransmission of this broadcast is strictly prohibited without written consent of WPSL. It's time now for the Wise Wine Guys. Call in with your questions and comments at 340-1590. Now, here's your host.
Well, I'm just the engineer, right? And I don't hold the bottle, I don't hold the glass, but I got a friend who does.
Welcome, everybody, to the Wise Wine Guys. Welcome all the way from South Florida, Jupiter, Florida, all the way up to Sebastian. We're on 1590 AM. We want to welcome you all here to the Wise Wine Guys. We have a wonderful radio show that's kicking off here. I believe this is our fourth, maybe our fifth show representing DC Global Wine Club.
We could go back and count the archives, but I think we'll lose our count somewhere in there. it was during one of the wine tastings.
I'm telling you, Cliff, we've got a great wine here to share today. This is going to be a delicious wine, and
a cast of wild characters.
We got a great cast of wild characters here. We've got Mr. Gino Ferrari on the phone with us from Simi Valley, California. Hi, Gino. How are you doing out there this morning?
I'm good, Jim. How are you?
I'm doing absolutely fantastic. Thanks for asking, brother. How's the weather out there?
It is beautiful. It is sunny. It is warm. The grass is green, and we came off of 2 months worth of drenching rain. So we've got our drought under control finally. At least that's what they say. But they're still taxing the heck out of our water. Figure that one out, huh?
Boy, the water, and I hear the big controversy about the gasoline out there too, right?
Sure. Yeah, everything's taxable. That's what our world is these days. But, the great thing about wine is that you don't care.
Well, I was hoping that they weren't going to start nailing the wine on the taxes.
No, they do a little bit of that already, but they've been doing that for a long time, so it's kind of built into the price. But the great thing about DC Global Wine Club is that we're going to be talking about wines today that are an exceptional value, that are worth a heck of a lot more than what we're actually putting them forward in terms of their prices. So there's a great opportunity for folks to be able to get wonderful wine that is high grade at a price they're going to be quite surprised at.
You know, Gino, we had a wonderful wine tasting just the other night. I'm starting to lose track here of my evenings. Thursday evening. Thursday evening over at a friend's house. And boy, we must have had 20 some odd people there. It was just wonderful. The people fell in love with these wines, and we had a doctor there that has been on our monthly auto ship with us for probably better part of 5 months now. And this guy's a real connoisseur of wine. I'm not going to mention his name. He is a local doctor here. And boy, he absolutely was telling me, he said, Jim, I've been drinking wine for a long time, and I've loved every bottle since I've joined this club. Every bottle since I've joined this club. And a lot of the folks that were at this party were members of various different wine clubs, and they were actually going to quit those wine clubs and join us over here at DC Global Wine Club.
Well, the great thing about this wine club is that it's not just about getting great wines that you don't normally find in the stores. It's about being able to make a referral to somebody that you know to try it and be able to actually get in the middle of that revenue stream. The company has put together a program where people just like you and I can be involved in the wine industry without having to get our licenses, without having to be a distributor, without having to worry about the legalities of shipping wine to people, because the company takes care of that. The beautiful thing about this is that people are going to drink wine anyways. We all know that. So why not refer a great wine that we have to people that you know, so that they can tell their friends about it and be involved in a very fun environment, one that's very social, but make money along the way simply by making a referral.
Exactly right, and that's the beautiful thing about what we do. As simple as recommending a restaurant to a friend or a good movie to somebody. We don't make anything off that, but off these wines here, Gino, we have an opportunity to make an incredible income to supplement our full-time job. To give us the little toys that we may want around the house, or maybe you want to donate to a charity, or give to a church or something of that nature. But the income potential with this particular industry, I believe in the United States, correct me if I'm wrong, it's over $55 billion a year. So to be able to set yourself in front of a revenue stream like that and siphon off that is quite incredible, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely, yeah. And it's great what you were talking about, the extra money that comes in. I took some of my extra money that I was making on DC Global Wine Club and actually built a little wine cellar in my house and had a wonderful time doing it. And the problem is that I just can't keep enough wine in my wine cellar now because I love this stuff so much that I'm giving it to my friends and having a great time doing it.
Well, that's why you visit your brother-in-law's house so much.
Yeah, that's true. The story is, and this is a true story, my brother-in-law is a wine aficionado, and he's got over 1,000 bottles in his wine cellar. And we were talking last week about the peaking time on wine, and it can range anywhere from 5 to 10 years. Sometimes it goes even to 25 years in the old wine areas, which is back in Europe. But he's an IT guy. He's a computer guy, so he's got everything on computer. He's actually got barcodes on his wine. So what he does is that he registers it on his iPhone and on this app that he's got, and it tells him when the wine is actually peaking and when he should be drinking it. It gives him a range. The problem is that he's got so much wine coming in with his wine clubs that he's got from different places that he can never get to it. So he ends up calling us up and saying, hey, I've got a couple of wines here that I spent, $90 a bottle on, and it's just a little bit past his peak. Do you want to come over and share it with us? And I think the answer comes, let me think about that for a second. Yes, we'll be right over.
So you bring the cigars and you're on your way, right?
Well, he's got the cigars too, which is great.
Hamrock, are you out there, buddy?
I am indeed. I am indeed. And you're talking about the weather being nice there in California. I feel like I'm in Seattle, for goodness sake. It's been rainy and cold, and you guys are down in Florida, and Gino's over in California. I'm feeling a little bit jealous of you boys.
Mark, I do feel bad for you. I really do. Living up there in that particular part of the country, dealing with the climate, it is a little bit tough, and I do feel bad, but not that bad.
Well, I tell you, it looks like the weather forecast here in the D.C. area, it's going to be feeling like summer. It's going to be sunny here next week, and actually, this is a great time of year to hit a lot of the wineries there in Northern Virginia. It is beautiful when it's not raining.
Just keep your eye on my Facebook, and you can watch me out in the boat on the jet ski all weekend long.
Well, I think at some point in time we're going to have to take a little trip over to California and meet up with Gino and maybe check out brother-in-law's wine cellar.
Yeah, I think you're going to have to. That would be a great opportunity. Plus, we can check out a lot of the great wineries that are in California. But the great thing about DC Global Wine Club is that they have wines that actually rival those of California. And the reason for that is that these are wines that are picked all over the world, handpicked by our sommeliers who actually are contracted by the company to go and find wines that you can't find in the stores. These can be wines from anywhere. We're talking about California, of course. We're talking about Washington, Oregon. We're talking about Virginia. We're talking about Italy. We're talking about France. We're talking about Australia, New Zealand, you name it. These guys go all over the country to find these wines. And as I was mentioning earlier, just to give a little bit of a history as to who we are, we're just a bunch of regular guys that love wine. And we got involved in tasting wine many years ago. Hamrocker and I are probably the ones that have been doing it the longest. And we've been discovering that there are great opportunities to explore and have fun by doing wine tasting. It's a great social event. I mentioned before that I've never met anybody in a wine tasting that's in a bad mood. And we've actually fell in love with the industry, because growing up as a kid, my dad used to, bring out the gallon jugs from the local supermarket, and they really didn't taste good. And he goes, "Here, try this." And at 3 years old, I was thinking to myself, even back then, well, this doesn't taste good.
No.
And then discovering that there are actually wines that are handcrafted by people all over the world, and discovering what those taste like really opened up a whole world to me. And then I asked myself, well, being a business guy, I would love to be able to get into this business. But one of the challenges is that, okay, if you're going to open a winery, let's say you start as a grower. Well, you've got to, I have a friend of mine who did this actually. He was an executive for Disney, and he started a great winery called Ampelos here in the Central Valley. And what he did was he took his money that he got as he was an executive. I think he invested, I'm not going to tell you how much he invested, but it was a lot. Out of respect for him, I'm not going to say what the amount was. But he bought this vineyard. And it took him 5 years to get the vineyard to the point to where it was producing the grapes to the point to where they were happy with what they were getting. It's a sustainable vineyard, which means that they're doing everything naturally. They're doing everything so that everything is recycled. Very responsible people. And they came up with an incredible wine after 5 years, okay? And then they took it and then they had to market it. It took another couple of years to get it going, and they got their wine club going and their wine tasting, and then they had to get their licenses. Now, they've had a lot of success, no doubt. But I asked myself, do I have the wherewithal to be able to invest like they did? Well, the answer was no. Do I have the time in my life to be able to do that right now as a passion? The answer was no, I didn't have that. But when DC Global Wine Club came around, and these guys had already put all this together, and they'd leveled the playing field, and they said, look, all you got to do is taste it, like it, tell your friends about it, and as you refer other people to it, you can actually make a part-time income, or you can make a full-time income doing this. And it was over. I mean, game over. I signed up, I started doing it, and I also started discovering the wonderful wines that are available through DC Global Wine Club.
Unbelievable. That's a really cool story about that gentleman. I'm just curious, Gino, what the costs associated with something like that to wait that period of time. It had to be in the millions of dollars.
Absolutely.
It was. It was no. Like I said, out of respect for my friend, I'm not going to mention the amount because I'm not sure he would give me the permission to do that.
Right,
but I
right.
will tell you that it was in the millions of dollars to do what he did. No question.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
And you have to wait years, even after they plant the grapes. I mean, probably about 7 years.
Well, you just said 5.
Yeah, at least 5. And the other thing about it was that he produces an amazing wine in California. And I'm not trying to do a commercial for him, but I mean, he really, really does an amazing job. And but here's the deal. It's just one wine. He focuses on Syrah and Pinots and a couple other varietals as well that he grows on his vineyard. But the great thing about DC Global Wine Club is that it doesn't I'm going to use the word pigeonhole, but I'll just use that for a second. But it doesn't put you in a corner and say that this is all we're going to be able to offer to the people that you're going to refer to. It goes all over the world and has every single varietal that you can imagine, and it offers that in our bag, if you will, our sales bag, as we like to say as sales guys, and when we make our referrals. And that's the beautiful thing about DC Global Wine Club.
Wow. Hamrocker, last weekend you were out in the vineyards floating around Maryland and such?
That would have been the Virginia area.
The Virginia area. Tell us a little bit about your, after we cut the radio show off and you were moving on for the day and the weekend out there in the vineyards. What'd you run across?
Well, I tell you what, and like Gino said, the great thing about DC Global, we do get wines all over the world, and there's specific wineries in like a state of Virginia area, or even in Maryland's got a few up and coming wineries, and you will find a couple wineries and a couple really great tasting wines, but sometimes some of these bottles cost $50, $60, $70. My fiance and I enjoy going to wineries because we get to meet people. It's like Gino says, you never see somebody in a back when you're doing wine tasting and people hanging out at wineries. So from the social aspect, it's great. It's relaxing to be at the wineries, as Gino knows there in California. I mean, it's just a great experience. But again, I don't know if you guys got tasted this month's red wine. I think it's called Mestico, which is from Spain. And I got to tell you, I just wanted to taste it just to see how it was. And I got to tell you, I think it's probably one of the best red wines. I think it's a red wine blend, if I'm not mistaken, Gino. But I think it's one of the best tasting red wines I've ever had. And I just got that this month through the wine club, and it's made there in Spain. So Spanish wines, Australian wines, New Zealand wines. I mean, that's the great thing about this club.
Mark, we're going to be taking a break here in just a second. When we come back from our break here, I'd like to discuss a little bit about DC Global Wine Club and the income potential it's associated with the company itself. Does that sound good to you?
That sounds awesome.
All right, buddy. We'll take a commercial break. We'll see you on the other side.
So if you've been listening for any amount of time, you realize that we're just a bunch of guys that love wine. We not only love drinking it, but we love sharing it with others. Let's face it, wine was meant to be a social event, and you've got to admit, it's always fun when you're sharing and drinking wine with others. Like I've always said, I've never been to a wine tasting where anyone's in a bad mood. Did you know that total wine sales in the U.S. alone are over $55 billion? That's billion with a B. So who's making all that money, and why can't you and I get a piece of that without having to go out and get a wine license? Why can't we get a piece of that for doing what we love, drinking wine and sharing it with our friends? Okay, so you're saying, I really don't know much about wine. I just know I enjoy drinking it. No problem. That's where DC Global Wine Club comes in. They make it easy. DC Global Wine Club will pick out the wines for you from boutique wineries all over the world that make terrific wines that most people might never even hear of. You can get great prices with monthly deliveries directly to your door. You'll also learn about wine as you go. But you know what's even better? You can get paid when you introduce your friends to DC Global Wine Club and they get their wine as well. The income potential is unlimited. So how many people do you know that buy a bottle of wine for home? And how many people do you know that maybe buy one bottle a week? That's really it. Refer others to great wine at exceptional price values and get paid and have a bunch of fun along the way. Give us a call at 855-611-WINE right now and we'll show you how you can get a piece of this $55 billion market. That's 855-611-WINE. or 855-611-9463. You're going to drink wine anyway. You might as well get paid for doing it.
You're listening to the Wise Wine Guys here on WPSL Digital 1590. Call in with your questions and comments at 340-1590. Now, back to your host.
What I'm trying to figure out is, where is the line drawn between the wine wise guys and the wine wise guys?
Gotcha.
Well, we'll have to figure this out.
We will. Hamrock, are you out there, buddy?
I sure am.
All right, let's bring you back up here and let's talk a little bit about this wonderful opportunity associated with DC Global Wine Club. And many of you heard the phone number that was mentioned on the commercial break. I want to mention it to you again before we roll into this. If you guys get your pencils and pens out and make a note of this, maybe most of you guys don't even know how to use a pen or a pencil anymore these days. Everybody's holding their computer in their hand with them. Make a note. The Wise Wine Guys, 855-611-WINE, 855-611-WINE. Hamrocker, tell us a little bit about this wonderful club and your experience with it to date.
Well, I've been involved with this club for about 2.5 months. And, as soon as I heard about it, what caught my attention right away is when, you refer 3 and you get your wine free. And I thought to myself, in this industry,
wait a minute. Refer 3 and you get your wine free. Huh? Tell us about that.
Correct.
That's very cool.
it's a no-brainer. I mean, anybody that can get their wine for free by just simply referring people, whether they get involved in this, to build this as a business or not, I think that's just a great opportunity in itself. One thing I wanted to point out, and we've talked about this, just in the United States, a $55 billion industry. Most people have a hard time really wrapping their head around a million versus a billion. And when you break a million versus a billion in terms of time, a million seconds is about 12 to 13 days. A billion seconds is over 33 years. So, when you kind of look at it from that point of view, Jim, you realize that a $55 billion industry is just huge.
That's a big difference here, what you just said.
Yeah,
33 years?
Over 33 years.
That puts it into perspective, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it's just huge.
Wow.
Huge.
Wow.
And that's the thing, Jim. It's hard for people to really conceptualize the difference between it. It's just a different
big industry.
A different firm. Yeah. So
big.
If you're gonna float a big boat, you have to have deep waters, and that's basically what we've got with this opportunity here with our wine club. And like I said, it's not like we're, like Gino was saying, we like to drink wine. If you like to drink wine, people that like to drink wine, this is an absolute no-brainer kind of club to get involved with.
Wow, you really have intrigued me with those numbers. Gino, I don't know, 33 years? So that's a big number, and I'm just running here on my calculator. A trillion looks as if it's 33,000 BC.
It's gonna be a millennium.
I just calculated that out, Mark. 33,000 BC is a trillion seconds.
That's just incredible.
That's a big number. Anyways, but from an opportunity standpoint, ladies and gentlemen, DC Global Wine Club is an amazing opportunity. So if you're looking for a way to get out there and supplement your income, make some part-time, even full-time income, we have an opportunity for you. Just call us at 855-611-WINE if you're looking for a way to just supplement some simple utility bills, maybe a car payment, maybe even a mortgage payment. How about all the payments together? Combine them. That's the kind of income potential that you have with an opportunity like the wine business. Have your own distributorship laid out for you without all the licensing. Isn't that right, Gino?
Yeah, absolutely. As I was saying before, they have everything figured out for you, and you can actually just start referring people over to it. So, Jim, we're talking about the business opportunity. We're talking about referring wines over, but let's talk a little bit about the wines today, and let's do a little bit of tasting if we can, and let's experience together and share on the radio what we're experiencing as we taste this wine.
Fantastic. What do we have here? What's the wine of the day?
Well, today we have a wine out of Italy, which is a Sauvignon Blanc, and it is from a winery called Tre Cresta, which means three crests in Italian. And we're going to talk a little bit about the Sauvignon Blanc grape, and we're going to explain to people what that is. We're going to talk a little bit about how it's made, and then we're going to taste it. Now, the thing I'd like to talk about this morning is that there are different types of grapes, and each one has its own characteristic. Now, I'm not talking about the individual grape on the vine. I'm talking about the varietal itself. Each one is different. They come from different regions. They taste different. They have different characteristics. And the Sauvignon Blanc is a grape that is actually a green grape. And you have, of course, people have seen it on the vine. You've seen green grapes. We've got them on the table, and we've also seen red grapes. And, a common misconception is that the grape gets its color by the type of grape that it is. It actually gets its color from the skin. And so, in other words, the wine, I should say. The particular varietal that we're talking about, the Sauvignon Blanc, has its origins in the Bordeaux regions of France. It comes from the word sauvage, we mentioned that before, which means wild. And what that means is that, and also Blanc means white. So Sauvignon Blanc means a wild white grape. And typically it gets that name because it's indigenous to the region in which it was found, which is in southern France. It's planted in many world wine regions all over, and it's noted for its crisp, dry, and refreshing taste. It's widely cultivated in places like Chile, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, Washington, and California. And depending on the climate, the flavor can range from aggressively grassy to sweetly tropical flavor, if you will. Now, cooler climates produce a more acidic overtone and green flavors of, say, grass, bell peppers, and even a tropical fruit overtone to it, if you will. And warmer climates actually develop more of a tropical fruit note. Now, as I mentioned before, when I talk about these little flavors, they're not actually added to the wine. It's actually something that becomes a natural occurrence in the actual flavor. So in other words, if you taste a little bit of bell peppers, that doesn't mean that the winemaker took bell peppers and threw it into the barrel. It just means that that's a natural occurrence. And there's a lot of DNA that actually crosses over in our vegetation put there by our Creator. And I think that wine is one of these wonderful things that God has given mankind that has so many intricacies to it and so many surprises to it that actually comes out in the winemaking process. And that's one of the things that is so particularly wonderful about the wine, is that you get so many different flavors and so many different overtones. The other thing is that wine actually gives you a different experience when you actually take it in and breathe it. It's called the nose. Now I'm going to take the wine right now and I'm going to put it in my glass. And wine typically does better as it has an opportunity to breathe a little bit. Now this is important because you want to get the oxygen into the wine after you open it. Oxygen has a tendency to start oxidizing the wine, if you will. And of course, the longer you leave it in oxygen, the better, but eventually it starts to degrade itself. One of the things I noticed in the winemaking process was that they would take wine and they would put it in the barrel, and they would put CO2 into the barrel so that it would remove the oxygen and keep the oxygen away during the during the aging process of the wine. And what this would do is it would allow wine to actually come to a point to where it would not have the oxidation happening at that particular moment. So now what happens is that when you open it up, and you taste it in the barrel as you're aging it, the winemaker will take this large tube that looks like a test tube and it looks very similar to a basting tube, and he'll actually suck the wine out and he'll taste it just to make sure that things are going well. Well, he's got to take that oxygen and take it out again. So he takes CO2 and he'll take the plug, which is called the bung, and the hole, which is called the bung hole, and he will take that and he will then put the CO2 in, which will push out the oxygen. He'll close it up again, and therefore the oxygen has been removed from the barrel. Now, you've heard about decanting the wine. Now, this is the process, as I mentioned before, when you open the wine up, and it allows the wine to be able to breathe. And that oxidation that happens over the first 30 minutes to an hour is actually going to bring out the flavors. It's going to actually mellow the wine out a little bit, and it's going to give you a better wine tasting experience. So it's really important that when you're doing the tasting that you will allow this to happen, because it'll give you a better experience. Now, some people will take the wine, put it into a decanter, and as they're pouring it in, oxygen is actually being mixed in as you see little bubbles come up. And the wider surface that you have exposed, the more oxygen is going to be able to get into the wine. Now that's why you see these decanters with a really, really wide bottom on the bottom of it, and a very, very skinny neck. That allows the more surface for the wine to be able to have the oxygenation come into it. Then what happens is that you swirl it around, let it sit for a little bit, then pour it into the glass. And getting back to where I was 10 minutes ago before I got onto this monologue, you take the glass and you swirl it around, put it up to your nose, and you want to take your nose and you want to bury your nose into the glass. And all of a sudden, you start to get these wonderful bouquets that are coming up, and you can actually taste different noses, if you will, different flavors that are actually coming up through your sensory of your breathing and your nose. And so it's a wonderful experience. And then when you taste it, like I'm going to do right now, you start to that's good. You start to get into the flavors of grass, the bell peppers. This is a really cool one. This is very, very crisp and clean. Now, there's something else I want to say about this. Now, Sauvignon Blanc, which is a white wine, you want to have it chilled as you serve it. Not necessarily what you do with red wines. Okay, there's a difference. Red wine usually should be stored in about 52 to 55 degrees so that you have a little bit of a chill to it. You want to let it come out and then get to a room temperature before you drink it. But not with white. White, you want it to have it a lot colder than that, and that actually helps accentuates the flavors in those particular varietals.
Very interesting, Gino. I'm every week I get a tremendous education on our wines, and for all of you that think that what we're going through is over your head or above you in any way. Mind you that when this wine is delivered to your door by the UPS driver, when you open up the box, right on the top of the box are tasting notes, sort of like a specification sheet that outlines each one of these wines, that talks all about the growers by name, the area, the weather conditions, how far away is the ocean breeze, the sea, you name it. That I don't even know if I mentioned elevations. It gets down into the finest of detail with these wines. It also gets into the flavors that you're going to pick up, and that's a great help when you're reading the tasting notes on this particular Sauvignon Blanc, where it talks about gooseberry and thyme and lemon zeal, followed by a mineral type finish. So. And the funny thing is, when we're listening to Gino talk about this, he's not reading from these tasting notes. I mean, what you're hearing from him is pure experience in the wine world. It's beyond the pale, Gino. Tremendous education, and I really want to thank you for that with this particular wine. It is a delicious wine, and we've gotten some beautiful wines out of this club. Since we've all been associated with it over the last few months. And hey, you guys, the reality of it is that we've gotten involved with this company over the last few months, probably in my case about 6 months ago, and we fell in love with it. We fell in love with the wines. We've taken it to the point where we're serious about it, serious enough to do a radio show for all of you listeners out there. Like I said, from Jupiter all the way up through Sebastian. In our listening area here, we probably have anywhere in the area of 10 to 15,000 listeners at any given time just in our local area here, not to mention what's going on around the world watching us on Ustream. And in fact, I have some friends of mine right now that are watching and listening to us from Spain. And hey, Neil, I hope you could see us out there in Spain. And a really good buddy of mine watching us and listening to us on the radio show. And also a good friend of yours as well, Gino. So make sure you put a shout out to old Neil.
Neil, it's been a while, and I miss you, brother.
Good. Hey, okay, so we're going to take another radio break here in just a second, you guys. We'll be back to wrap up the show in just a bit.
So if you've been listening for any amount of time, you realize that we're just a bunch of guys that love wine. We not only love drinking it, but we love sharing it with others. Let's face it, wine was meant to be a social event, and you've got to admit, it's always fun when you're sharing and drinking wine with others. Like I've always said, I've never been to a wine tasting where anyone's in a bad mood. Did you know that total wine sales in the U.S. alone are over $55 billion? That's billion with a B. So who's making all that money, and why can't you and I get a piece of that without having to go out and get a wine license? Why can't we get a piece of that for doing what we love, drinking wine and sharing it with our friends? Okay, so you're saying, I really don't know much about wine. I just know I enjoy drinking it. No problem. That's where DC Global Wine Club comes in. They make it easy. DC Global Wine Club will pick out the wines for you from boutique wineries all over the world that make terrific wines that most people might never even hear of. You can get great prices with monthly deliveries directly to your door. You'll also learn about wine as you go. But you know what's even better? You can get paid when you introduce your friends to DC Global Wine Club and they get their wine as well. The income potential is unlimited. So how many people do you know that buy a bottle of wine for home? And how many people do you know that maybe buy one bottle a week? That's really it. Refer others to great wine at exceptional price values and get paid and have a bunch of fun along the way. Give us a call at 855-611-WINE right now and we'll show you how you can get a piece of this $55 billion market. That's 855-611-WINE. or 855-611-9463. You're gonna drink wine anyway. You might as well get paid for doing it.
The regular season is here on both WPSL and WSTU. The St. Lucie Mets visit Jupiter Friday at 6:30 on WPSL. The New York Mets travel to Milwaukee Friday and Saturday nights and Sunday afternoon at 2:10 on WPSL. The Marlins host St. Louis Monday through Wednesday, and the Braves over the weekend on 1450 WSTU. Mets Marlins baseball is brought to you by Treasure Coast Lexus, Treasure Coast Toyota, Dave's Diner open 24 hours a day in Fort Pierce, the Quit Doc Foundation of Martin County, Nice Air, and Bar Fusion of Port St. Lucie on both WPSL and WSTU.
You're listening to the Wise Wine Guys here on WPSL Digital 1590. Call in with your questions and comments at 340-1590. Now, back to your host.
Now, the phrase wine aficionado is very popularly well known by by a little shortened abbreviation of wine aficionado to simply just wino, so to speak. So back to the Wino Show. I mean, the wonderful, we're talking about the Wise Wine Guy.
Oh, Cliff, you crack me up. You crack me up.
Well,
guys, welcome back from that short commercial break. And Hamrock, are you out there, brother?
Yes, sir, I am.
Good, man. Well, go ahead and what I want to do, I want to drill down on this amazing opportunity with respect to this company with you and Gino, because it simply is. So, and I don't know if I could stress it enough. People that are out there listening to us right now, give us a call. We want to share this opportunity with you. For those of you who are looking to do maybe a little party of a sort, we'll come and we'll do a wine tasting for you. We'll supply the product. We'll do the wine tasting. And what we want out of it, we want to be able to mention our club. We want to be able to roll out, introduce these delicious wines to people, and then mention our club to the folks. And then we'll take all the financial risks associated with it from that point moving forward. We'll meet some good friends. You guys will you'll fall in love with the Wise Wine Guys. And Hamrocker, what do you got to say about this amazing opportunity? I know you've been in it for a few months now, and I know you're doing fantastic. And just tell us a little bit about what you think of the opportunity itself.
Like I said before, Jim, I really feel that it's a no-brainer. When people can get free product for just referring people to the wine club, and the great thing about this industry, it's nothing more than building relationships. And, we go out there, we help other people succeed, regardless if their goals are either to get free wine or to actually make a substantial income. It's just a great opportunity where you're not out there peddling lotions and potions and some magic pill trying to explain what your product's all about. Everybody knows what wine is. We and everybody enjoys to partake of it responsibly, of course. But again, it's the income potential is is beyond the stars, and I really feel that with this wine club opportunity, we are still pretty much. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jim, but we're pretty much on the ground floor of what I feel is going to be we will eclipse a billion in sales within the next 5 years is my prediction. I could be off with my numbers, but we're virtually on the ground floor of a great opportunity.
33 years. 33 years. Billion in sales.
33 years in terms of time.
You know, from a home-based business standpoint, Gino, and that's exactly what this is. For those of you who are out there listening to this radio show right now, if you're looking for a way to supplement your income without the licensing issues and all those things that are associated with the startup of a business, Gino, tell us a little bit about your background in this particular industry, in the world of business opportunity and networking.
Well, my genesis in the networking business, I call it relationship marketing, really started in 1999 as I was a manufacturing executive, and I was working very, very hard, and working, I would say 6 days a week, at least 10 hours a day. And I had a young nephew who was 24 at the time who got involved in relationship marketing. And he introduced it to me and said, "Hey, Uncle Gino, you really need to be involved in this network opportunity, this business opportunity that I'm involved in. And I want to have you come down to a meeting and kind of see what it's all about." And I was resistant at first, but what I soon started to understand was that I was working very hard. I had a cap on what I could make. And I had it was really a fixed income based on what I was doing before. I was making a good living, but I had a lot of expenses and could never really get above my expenses. I was always struggling to make it. And, no matter how successful you get in life, if you have a fixed income, that lifestyle that you're living is always going to meet the cap, if you will.
So, I mean,
you're broke just at a higher level. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
At the end of the month, there's not enough to go around, and because you've got a lot of obligations to go out with. And so he introduced me to this, and what I started to understand very quickly was that multiple streams of income were how the rich get rich. In other words, if you look at all the wealthy people in the world, or look at the people that are retired, that have invested well, they invested in several different portfolios, or one portfolio, for example, and they have that portfolio goes out to several investments into a lot of different companies that pay dividends. If one happens to go down, let's say it's an aggressive investment, and it happens to perhaps maybe not do as well in one particular year, other ones that are a little bit less aggressive do well. That's called multiple streams of income. And what my 24-year-old nephew taught me was that if I had something coming in that I could do on the side that I could enjoy without having to kill myself doing it, I could I could have a separate income coming in that could supplement what I was doing in my capped income, and all of a sudden my life changed. I started having extra money that I needed to be able to buy wine at that particular time in my life, as I enjoyed doing it, going on vacations. And then all of a sudden I understood that the relationship marketing was a wonderful, wonderful way for the average person to be able to piggyback off the hard work of a company that figures out a level playing field so that they can be involved in something without having to put the risk out there to start something. And with that, with the success that I had with it, in 2007, a good buddy of mine sat down in front of me and said, "Hey, I got something to show you." So he pulls out this little thing that looked like a pen, and he started puffing on it.
Looked like a pipe. It looked like a pipe back then.
It was the electronic cigarette. And I go, "What the heck is that?" And he told me, and he goes, the manufacturer came to us and they want us to take this and they want us to bring it into the relationship marketing world because they believe that that's the fastest way to introduce this. And I said, "I don't want to be involved in that. I have nothing to do with the tobacco industry." And he said, "Well, no, this is not the tobacco industry. This is a product which is nothing more than water vapor that has nicotine on it. And I said, nicotine kills people. And he goes, no, it doesn't. Nicotine is not what kills people. It's the chemicals that go into cigarettes, the carcinogens that kill people. What this does is that it'll give people what they want. Nicotine is a more powerful cousin of caffeine. He goes, but it doesn't kill people. He goes, this will give people an opportunity to get out of cigarettes and into something that is not going to give them a death sentence. And I did the math on it, and I said, well, that makes sense to me. So we got involved in that, and within a very short period of time, we introduced this using relationship marketing, and we had hundreds of thousands of people that were using the product within a short period of time, and then the industry exploded all around us. Everybody realized what a great product this was, and everybody started, marketing their own brand, and they got into the stores. We've helped millions of people get off of cigarettes and transition into a product that was not a tobacco cigarette, if you will. And again, a testament to the relationship marketing and how fast things can grow and when the message gets out, when it's attached to the right company and when it's attached to the actual sale of the product. This is something that DC Global Wine Club is something that allows people to get involved in and to be able to have an income because they are selling the product by not really selling, but by referring. So what you're doing is you're getting compensated by the actual sale of the product, not getting people into some crazy scheme. So that is the beautiful thing that we set up with the electronic cigarette industry. I do not own DC Global Wine Club, just so you know, but as I was introduced to it, I saw that it was very similar to what Jim and I had started and my partners had started in 2007. And I realized that, hey, this is great because it makes sense to me. You sell a product, you get paid. You get a lot of people buying a product in mass, you get paid a lot of money. That's the concept of business. And with relationship marketing, you have the opportunity to get the message to the masses. I don't know if you guys ever watch Shark Tank, but you get these great ideas coming up before these people who are sitting in this in front of all these inventors. And these are really, really smart business guys, as you know, Mark Cuban and
O'Leary, Kevin O'Leary.
Kevin O'Leary, I love that guy. And they sit in front of these guys and these people come to them and say, I got this great product, and they're really, really good ideas. The problem is that they don't have the ability to get the product to the masses. And what the sharks do is that they'll invest in the companies because guess what? They've got the networks in place that could not only fund their great idea, but also take it to the masses, because with a couple of phone calls, they can get it into Best Buy, they can get a product into Bed Bath & Beyond, Home Depot, you name it. They have the ability to do that very, very quickly. And what happens? Well, take, for example, Best Buy with 1,000 stores all throughout the country. Product goes in there, and they've got 10,000 people going in on a weekend. All of a sudden, you have reached the masses, and that's how you get velocity on a product. Well, relationship marketing uses the same concept, but it's word of mouth. So therefore, what's happening is all the advertising that these companies have to put into their products don't exist in relationship marketing because it's word of mouth. So you make a referral to a product and you get compensated when other people buy that product. And if it grows really great and strong because you've talked to a lot of people and they've talked to a lot of people, then you have the opportunity to really do well. Look, there's no guarantee of income in anything that you do, but the harder you work at something, the more lucky you get. What do they say, Jim, in the old days? The harder you work, the more luckier you get in business.
No coincidence
That's basically a concept that relates to this. And DC Global Wine Club has put together a level playing field for people to be involved in the same type of a concept with a company that is doing it the right way.
We like to say, Gino, get in, get wine, get social, get paid.
That's right.
Yeah. So, guys, it's a wonderful opportunity. And, hey, Mark, what are you thinking out there?
Yeah, I want to echo exactly what Gino's saying. Relationship marketing is a very powerful form of distribution. And the other thing is you need to have a product that is, people are going to like. Yeah, there's an old saying in the industry: if you change the way someone feels about themselves, or change the way they look, you're going to have even your regular person that's not even involved in sales will just talk about it. It's like when you go to a fine restaurant or you go to a nice restaurant, you like the food, or you see a movie, you share that experience with people. And what we have here with this wine club is a positive experience. It people enjoy it, they have fun, and I tell you what, I mean, having fun. This is the most fun as far as making money I've ever had. So. It's something that the listeners out there, check it out. Call the number, and we certainly will get you more information.
Yeah, let's give them that number again one more time. The number is 855-611-WINE.
And if you're watching an archive of this show on YouTube, on WPSL TV, there's a phone number on the screen.
Yeah, all across it. So we're doing these shows live here in the studio, and they are being recorded. You can actually watch us on Ustream live here, and then they are recorded on, like you said, YouTube, WPSL TV. Mm-hmm. And we're getting them out there on Facebook and starting to roll them through. So, guys, the one thing that we didn't talk about is where these wines come from. They come from all over the world. They come from these people that care a lot about their vineyards, like Gino was talking about a little bit earlier. People pour their heart and soul and their whole finances into these things for years upon years upon years before they start to spin off any income. But these mom and pop vineyards, these artisan vineyards, boutique vineyards, if you will, these are the smaller people, the smaller producers that are typically producing 5,000 cases or less a year. At DC Global Wine Club, we have 7 full-time sommeliers at the distribution center. These wines are sent to them all from all over the world, and their responsibility is a big responsibility. The sommeliers, they have to, they run the wines across all 7 of the folks, and they all have to agree. And one of the reasons for the agreement is that. That 7 people agree on that particular wine that goes out is because we give 100% satisfaction guarantee with the wine. And if you don't like the wine, you can actually send it back. You don't just take that back. You don't even send it back. You just call the company, and they send you out another brand. No questions asked.
Wow.
And that's a big deal.
It doesn't get any better than this.
So that's why we have 7 sommeliers out there, 7 people agreeing on it, and their responsibility is huge because you've got all these different palates out there, right, Gino?
Yeah, everybody's different, and what they do is these guys are really good at picking out something that is going to appeal to the mass amount of palates out there on a wide variety of people.
Yeah. Well, we're winding it down here, guys. We're getting to the end of our show. So let me give out this number one more time. If any of you are out there looking for an amazing opportunity and you're our local listening area, I am, as well as K-Bar, is located right here in the Port St. Lucie, Martin County, Palm Beach County area. 855-611-WINE. So if you're looking for a home-based business, whether it's a part-time income or a full-time income, we want you to give us a call. We want to share this opportunity with you, and I just want to let you know the difference between this world and the corporate world where you're working real hard to try to climb that corporate ladder. It always seems as if the person above you is working their heart out to try to kick you down.
Either that or just dangle the carrot out a little further.
Well, yeah.
Out of your reach.
So eventually you slip off. With our industry, we're here to pull you up. Wow. And that's the truth of the matter. Isn't that right, Cliff?
Yeah. The Wise Wine Guys. What a concept. And, of course, that number again.
You're listening to The Wise
855-611-WINE. Gino, you make it a great afternoon out there, a great morning, great afternoon. Mark, you as well, my brother.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Love you guys.
Have a great week.
See you next Saturday.
Bye-bye.
This is WPSL Port St. Lucie, the talk of the Treasure Coast.